I've just booked a 14-night cruise on board a brand new cruise ship for 2021. A 14-night cruise, including gratuities, taxes and port fees, only cost me $1,000. It's a great time to be booking 2021 cruises if you know where to look. This video is brought to you by the Cruise Line. They're a leading agency here in the UK and they've actually just released an app so that you can find and book cruises when you're on the go. More information about them in the description box. If you're anything like me, you may have a 2020 cruise which was cancelled. I was supposed to be taking my first Carnival cruise this year, which was cancelled. It took around 2 months for that refund to come back to me, and ever since I've had that money back, it's been just burning a hole in my pocket and saying to me, Emma, spend me on a cruise. Some people have got amazing deals by opting for future cruise credit instead of taking a cash refund. I decided to take a cash refund because I'm not sure when I'm going to be cruising with Carnival again, but if you're somebody who does have future cruise credit to use, now is a really good time to use it. The cruise that I actually decided to use my refund money on is a Anthem of the Seas cruise, cruising to the Norwegian fjords next May. I've wanted to cruise again with Royal Caribbean for a really long time. I think you guys will want to see the videos of this cruise ship. Anthem of the Seas looks amazing, and ever since I went to Norway a couple of years ago, I've been just dying to get back. So I'm really excited about this. I've done something crazy and I actually booked myself a balcony cabin, not because of the coronavirus crisis, but because this cruise does go to Norway. I'm well known for being a very much budget cruiser, cheap cruiser, call me what you like, but I'm normally in an inside cabin, and a guaranteed inside cabin at that. But I have always said there's certain places where I think it's worth spending extra on a balcony, and I think the Norwegian fjords is that. This cruise was a fantastic deal, and even the price of a balcony was very cheap for Royal Caribbean, so I jumped at the chance, and it's still a lot cheaper than the Carnival cruise that I cancelled last year. One thing that I'm doing in 2021, and I would suggest you do too if you can, is to cruise from a home port and stay relatively close to home. You're really maximising your chance of your cruise going ahead if it does go from a home port. If you're adding on things like flights and hotels, you're just adding more things which could be cancelled. It's so much easier to cruise from a home port. I'm here from the UK, so by cruising from a home port, I'm pretty much accepting that we may have miserable weather, but I think at this stage it's so worth it to go on an amazing cruise like the Norwegian fjords. I totally understand that not everybody has a home port, but staying relatively close to home, at least in the short term, in early 2021, I think does make sense. The second reason why I've been booking cruises is because there are absolute bargains to be had, and if you're somebody like me who's always on the lookout for a cruise deal, when you see a cheap cruise price, you just have to book it. So the cruise I've booked is on board P&O's Iona for January. She's the newest cruise ship for the British cruise line P&O Cruises, and I'm very excited. She is a huge cruise ship and a very exciting cruise ship for the British market. This price is, of course, for the cheapest inside cabin. It's a guaranteed inside cabin where I haven't picked the location, but this is one of my favourite things to do when I cruise. For me, price is the main priority, and I've never had a bad cabin. Touch wood, everything has always been okay. I'm a massive fan of a guaranteed inside cabin. It just means that you're guaranteed to have the cabin grade that you've booked, and you could be upgraded. You tend to get these assigned last, so you do get the leftover cabins. I've been right at the front, right at the back, right at the bottom, right at the top. But to be honest, for the price saving, it's normally well worth it for me. I have had a lot of people who have questioned me on this because I'm booking an inside cabin, and a lot of people who previously cruised in inside cabins are looking to cruise in balconies going forward because of everything that happened with coronavirus when people were quarantined to their cabins. I have to say the idea of cruising in an inside cabin doesn't bother me any more than it did before this. I think we're very unlikely to ever see a quarantine on the same kind of scale. It doesn't work, it's awful, and we've learned a lot since this happened. What actually happened at the beginning of the coronavirus crisis was that there were a few cruise ships that had positive coronavirus cases on board. What happened with those was that they pretty much just had to close everybody into their cabins. They would deliver them food, they would look after them, but at the end of the day, these passengers were in their cabins for 2-3 weeks, and some people were even in inside cabins with 3 or 4 people in an inside cabin for multiple weeks. Definitely not ideal, but I don't think we're going to see that happen again. The EU recently released some guidelines where they said everything that a cruise line should be thinking about before it sets off on a cruise. Some of the things that it talked about was that cruise lines are going to have to know where they can quarantine people. They're going to have to know what medical services are available in the ports. They're going to have hotels where they can quarantine people. And I think going forward, if anybody does get coronavirus on a cruise, the priority is going to be to get them off and put them into a quarantine on land. I really don't think that we're ever going to see the same kind of on board, everybody in their cabins quarantine. Even if this possibly could maybe happen someday somewhere, it wouldn't stop me from cruising in inside cabins. Inside cabins are fantastic. They're dark. They're the best place. It's like a little cocoon. You can sleep in there forever, and you can save so much money by booking an inside cabin, which you can invest into excursions. You can invest into a drinks package. And at the end of the day, if you have an inside cabin, the only thing you're going to do in there is shower and sleep. There are some ideas floating around about why there are some cheap cruises showing up right now. A lot of people who are new to cruise have been put off of cruising, and some people who are seasoned cruisers are also just waiting to see what happens. At the moment, we don't really know what the experience on a cruise is going to be like. We can guess that it's going to be similar to on land. There's going to be social distancing, there may be mask wearing, and things like that have put off some people who are already cruisers. I'm actually going to announce a new cruise right now, and I haven't told anybody about this. I've booked a cruise for 18 months' time, a Christmas cruise on board a P&O cruise ship. Very, very excited about it, and you might be wondering how I can afford to have 3 cruises booked. That leads me nicely into my next point. Cruise deposits can be incredibly cheap. Just because I've booked a cruise for 18 months' time doesn't mean that I have to pay for that cruise anytime soon. The deposits on both the P&O cruises that I booked were just £42. That's $53. The way I see it, I'm basically locking in that price. I'm putting my name down against this cruise for $53. Worst case scenario, my cruise is cancelled and my $53 is returned to me. The cruise that I'd originally booked with Carnival was actually a fly cruise, so I had a hotel to pay for, I had flights to pay for, and the cruise to pay for. The refund for that has paid for the Royal Caribbean cruise, plus my 2 deposits on my other 2 P&O cruises. A lot of people are understandably worried about cancellation policies. What happens if we decide we want to cancel in 6 months' time? At the moment, cruise lines are being incredibly flexible with their cancellation policies. Some cruise lines are letting you move your cruises into the future, and Royal Caribbean are actually doing a cruise with confidence program at the moment, which means that if you book a cruise before August, you can cancel it within 48 hours of your sailing, and you'll just get onboard credit for that amount. In 18 months' time, things could be very, very different. I doubt the cancellation policies will be exactly the same, but I would be surprised if we don't see more flexible terms going into 2021. 2021 might seem like it's right around the corner, but it's actually not. It's actually pretty far away. This year has taught me, and probably you, that things can change incredibly fast. By the time that 2021 comes around, especially mid and the end of 2021, things could be very, very different. I'm still very optimistic that we'll see some cruises in Europe in 2020. I'm less optimistic for cruises from the US, but it could happen. There are already some cruises cruising in Germany, some in Norway. I don't think it will be long until we see British Isles cruises. And then once we start cruising, I don't think it will take us very long to get further afield. There have been various guidelines and approaches coming out recently which talk about how we're going to get back to cruising. I think it's most likely that we'll see a phased return to cruise approach, with the first phase being local cruises with people from only 1 or 2 countries. With this in mind, I do think it is a good idea to cruise from home, at least in the short term, and possibly pick a cruise line where the people on board are going to be from a similar place to you, if that makes sense. I don't know about you, but this whole thing has kind of just made me want to book cruises more. Life is short, we don't know what's going to happen, and at the moment, I think we're going to really need a cruise when 2020 is over. It's not just us that needs a cruise either. The cruise industry supports so many people, not just people who are on board, but people that work in the ports, people who are tour guides. There's so many jobs that are supported by the cruise industry, and I'm more than happy to help support that industry. I'm very proud of how the cruise industry has dealt with this whole thing, and I just can't wait until we can get back to normal. If you are considering booking a cruise for 2021, definitely download the app by the cruise line. They are the fantastic sponsors of this video. They're from my home county. They're from here, Sussex, UK, and they're actually the same age as me. They focus mostly on luxury, custom-made cruises, and I often just sit here in the evenings scrolling through looking at these incredible bucket list cruises. Definitely worth a download. Thank you for watching this, and I'll see you in this next video.